Hello everyone, it's Natasha from Treasure Books. I might be a little late to the party making DIY brads, but here I am nevertheless with over 200 brads I made in just a few hours. And believe it or not, there are over 200 brads here, and I know because I counted. So I'm here to share all the steps and ideas with you. And in this video, I will show you 3 different ways of making your own DIY brads. All right, let's begin. First of all, what are brads? Here's my box of purchased brads, and basically they are 2-pronged metal fasteners used in paper crafting. This is what they look like, and they come in many different shapes and sizes. And you push the prongs through a hole in the paper, and then you bend the prongs flat on the back to hold the pieces together. They add both decoration and function. They can be used in many different ways, such as attaching layers or creating movable parts in journals. You can use them for closures, layered flowers, and the list goes on and on and on. Now that that's out of the way, let's start with the first method, which is wire and buttons. All right, that was a bit dramatic, I know, but here is my collection of made brads with wire and buttons, and it's very, very straightforward. So I'm just going to demonstrate 1 or 2, and then we can use them so you can see how they actually work, right? All right, so you need wire that has some strength to it. So there's all different types of wires, and I know they have some type of a rating, and I really don't know, but I don't know what the ratings are. But you can see this wire, I can kind of bend it, but it's not, I mean, I can very easily bend it, but it's not as flimsy as, here's my bag of wires that I just chuck in there. I'm sure you probably have some around your house. Like there's wire, and then there's wire. Look at this. This is almost like hair thin wire. This isn't going to work. So you need something that has a little bit of strength to it. Even this, like, I know you can't see in the video, but it's the best I can do. And then like this one, you can see the difference. Can you see? I don't know. I hope you can. Thick wire, thin wire. And to make the process fast, like I probably mentioned in the introduction, I have made over 200, I was going to say 200,000. No. I made over 200 brads, and it was done very quickly. And this is how I did the button ones. So I would cut my wire all at once. I have my pliers in my hand with this cutty thing there. You can use whatever tool you have. You can use scissors. I used to have scissors just for wire, and I cut myself about 2 inches, I would say. I'm just eyeballing it. Some will be long, some will be short. And then I have all my wire ready to go. And then I have my buttons. I'm gonna get the most uninteresting one. 4 holes, 2 holes, I don't really care. Okay, put the wire through. I mean, doesn't get any simpler than this. And then at the back, I hold the wire, because what will happen is that the wire will want to move and do its thing. So I hold it with one hand, I grab my pliers, and I squish. I'm gonna try and do it like this. I squish right here, and then I try and straighten this out. All right, and it looks horrendous at the back, but the beauty of this is you won't be able to see the back. And I'll show you how you can make this work in your project. So this is gonna go on my little styrofoam thing here. I knew I was saving this for something. I've had it for so long. And finally, this is the project I needed it for. All right, we can perhaps even layer. Let's layer. I haven't layered, and now I'm gonna layer. So I have my little thing ready to go. And we're gonna go in through the first button. It really depends on what you're going to be using these for. So this kind of thing, the button thing, especially this layering button business, I would use this on journal closures. All right, we've layered and we have the prongs. I could have had the longer prongs at the back, okay? And hold it with one hand. I'm just gonna pop it down on the desk. I don't do it in the air like this because it can move. Pop it down on my desk. I know you can't see, but you know what I'm doing. I'm pinching right there. I'm not twisting. I'm not gonna twist. You might feel like, oh, I should twist, make sure that it's secure. But then you will create like a whole bunch of extra business happening up here, and your thing isn't gonna lay flat. I hope that makes sense. I was focusing on my dry hands while I was saying that. You will see what I mean when I show you these in action. I'll just do one more. Well, I'll do 3 more because I have 3 wires cut, so I might as well. And then I'll show you how they actually look in projects because they're kind of ugly on the back, right? I just want to say that I have been using brads. Brads are one of those things that I simply can't craft without. I use brads in probably all of my projects. And whenever I do, I always get somebody ask me a question, where do you get your brads? Or what are brads? Somebody even said that they typed in Brad or Brad, I'm not sure. And all of the results in Google were Brad Pitt. So that's why I included the little definition of the brads when we first began. And in regards to the question, where do you get your brads? People are mostly referring to these large brads that I was just talking, that I've just shown you. And I don't know if you're gonna believe me when I tell you this, but all of these brads I found secondhand in secondhand shops. Because what's happened, this is from a brand called Kaiser Craft. And I am pretty sure that brand has moved away from paper crafting, like not really completely, but they started having socks and soaps and candles, okay? And it used to be just crafting stuff. So I think they're kind of moving away a little. I'm going to use this button next. I think it's gorgeous, but it's very tough to get these prongs through for some reason. Anyway, so I found a lot of these brads secondhand, all of them actually, if I'm being honest, because I'm all about using what you have, number one, and being creative with what you already have, and upcycling and recycling. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense to go and buy all this fancy stuff. However, having said that, every girl, all right, likes some fancy every now and again. So don't think I'm never gonna buy anything. All right, here are my buttons. Up close, look at all these buttons, and I actually really love the layered one. These aren't buttons, we're gonna get to that a little bit later, but yeah, aren't they just gorgeous? And you might be thinking, look at this one, handmade with love. You might be thinking, what's the difference between like just sewing the button on? Why would you do this? Why not just sew it on? Well, first of all, this is my thoughts, okay? I'm in the middle of the project and I'm making the thing and I need a brad. Or I need like to fasten something, okay? Am I going to go and pull out my needle and thread and go searching for the perfect button and then go and sew the button on? Yes, I would, but this is faster, number one. Number two, sometimes you might be working with very thick cardboard, like a cover for a book, all right? Let's just say, okay, I'm gonna use this as my example by the looks of it. I wasn't gonna, but now I'm gonna. All right, let's just say you're making a book, you're making a journal, and you want to add a closure. And I really like the look of this, or do I? No, not really. All right, maybe I'm gonna go with this cover instead because it's got kind of black and white. Okay, I have a whole box of covers ready to go. I want to create a closure for this cover. I'm gonna go with my layered button and I'm going to find the middle. All right, this is the button closure in action, or button brad, I should say. I might go with this. Not sure if that is the middle, but we shall go with it. Poke a hole. Oh yes. And here comes the button. Excellent. And now we shall open the prongs. Don't cut yourself. They can be very sharp. Open and flatten. That's a pretty ugly looking thing inside, but I think all breads on the back are pretty ugly looking, and oftentimes I'm gonna cover them anyway. In fact, here's my latest project. All of these are like tea bag booklets, tea bag shaped booklets and embellishment folders and all of that. And you will notice they all have a closure, and it's all breads. I used small breads, not large breads. And on the inside, all of them, I hide the feet, the prongs, even these purchased breads. In this particular case, when I will be making this book, I will probably be covering, even though it looks quite pristine, usually I would cover this whole thing. Usually I would have some type of a scrapbook paper. I'm just pulling stuff out, you know, covering the whole panel anyway. But even so, doesn't matter if it's going to be hidden or covered anyway. I always secure the bread back with masking tape, and I do it with all the breads. I do it with the purchased breads and these homemade ones. Not that I've made any homemade ones in the past, but anyway, I know for a fact that I'll be doing it from now on. I'll be making my own breads, and here we go, done. And now, how would you use this as a closure? Punch a hole, run this through, and then obviously it will wrap around either the underneath the first button, or what I was thinking when I went with the sled button is that this can be where I wrap my cord around. So I can either do it once or twice. So the first time I go around it, it's going to be difficult because it hasn't been worked in. The button, there's not much space. But you can always work around that by leaving a little bit of space. But here we go. Already I did it once, and then I did it twice, and now it's working. You know, there's space in between the two buttons. Yes, I can easily use that as a closure. Or you can do it if you just have a single button. Then, of course, it goes underneath that button, just like so. You can just once will do, or you can wrap around twice. Isn't that cool? And this is why you wouldn't sew. I think if you were to try and sew, first of all, sewing through this, I wouldn't advise it. It's not that it's not doable, but it's just kind of like, why? And wrapping around will be placing stress onto that string, holding the pieces together. Whereas wire, you can you're not gonna break that wire. And then here, one thing I'm noticing right now, perhaps I'll just point it out, is that this is quite bulky, two buttons, one on top of the other. So, you know, might be a little bit in the way of your journal. Anyway, maybe stick with one button, but I really like the stacked buttons. So there we have it. We have buttons and we have stacked buttons. And just for a little bit of inspiration, look at all these buttons. I love this one for some reason. How cool is that? You know, I kind of went with the bigger buttons because usually when I use the big brads in my videos, that's when people ask me, where do you find the brads? So I also have this butterfly button. How cool. And then these beautiful buttons. And I love the idea of using this handmade with love button as a brad. The smaller ones I would use in like middle of flowers. I love to layer flowers. All these beautiful flowers, and most of these are also from Kaiser Craft. You know what? Look at this. Oh, I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? I found a lot of these things on like Facebook Marketplace. How beautiful. And secondhand shops like Salvation Army and stuff. Look, oh, gorgeous. And then I want to apply it. What do I want to apply it onto? It's got chunky. Perhaps I don't need such long prongs. I can always cut them. So I'm just going to use this piece of little scrap. And I'm going to make like a card. Let's say it's a card. There we go. Prongs and cover. And then I'm not going to do it now because we need to keep going, but I would cut a piece of paper and hide all of that. And look, beautiful. And I think that it's pretty safe for us to now move on to technique number 2. Can you guess what this is? Okay, not everyone's gonna have this in their stash. I was very lucky, I suppose, when I found this for $1. And basically they are all stud earrings. Yeah, and then there's some excellent ones that I can use, like this flat heart. And then there's like pearl ones, which I can't really use for like inside journals because they're really chunky. Stud earrings. Maybe you have some, you know, in your jewelry box that you never wear, and now you can make brads with them. What do you think? Do you think this is really lame? A real lame example of brads? I have to admit, I've had this in my stash for I think probably about 2 years, maybe even 3 years, and I haven't done anything with those earrings because I had no idea how I'm going to use it. And then I started doing the DIY brads, and I thought, well, could I perhaps, you know, utilize this for the brads? And absolutely it works. So all you gotta do is this, very simple. You just bend the post down. Now sometimes what can happen is it can completely break off. I was pretty lucky that none of mine broke, so I don't know if it's the technique or if it's what. I'm gonna show you how I did it. And then I'll show you kind of like a little trick on how you can make sure it doesn't fall off of your paper once you touch it. So here it is, we're very, very close. And I bend down, but perhaps I hold it in my hand in the air. And I bend it down, just like this. All right, let's do one more. And another way that you can do it, and that's how I pretty much did most of them until I started doing it this way, is, oh, I have to show you this. I'm gonna show you that in a second. All right, here's one. Pop it through cardstock first, just a bit of cereal box. You pop the earring through, then you turn it to the other side, and then you simply fold it down with something, whatever you have as a tool, and you fold it down. I'm using this flat end of my awl, and I fold it down, and that's it, and it's on there, okay? You can take it out, and then how would you apply this to a project? It's kind of a little bit hard when it's completely bent. It's easier when you're using prongs, you just put it through. But actually it's not that hard. So let's say this is my project, and you're going to make a hole in your project where you want to apply your brad just as you usually would. And then you simply slide it in like this, and then you have to kind of click it into place. So you have to make sure that it goes like that. So then they're not going to go anywhere when they clicked into place. Oh, this one went somewhere. This one decided to ruin my point. So in that case, if it does fall out, what it means is that it needs to be bent a little bit more in. Let's take this one out just for demonstration purposes. I was like, I really liked this one. I was looking for the second one because I thought I'm gonna wear these earrings, but there was only one. Anyway, see that? Click, 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 pop it through and click. Oh, don't you just love that sound? Listen. I hope you guys are not gonna think this is so totally lame, like, you know, earrings for brads, but I just, you have to admit, you don't have to do the thing, but you have to admit that this looks pretty cool, right? So let's now pretend. Do we want to pretend, or do we just want to move on to the third method? I think I might want to pretend. Let's just say I want to use this brad. It's a brad now, you see, it's not an earring. And I want to use it in my layered flower. Just in case if you are a skeptic like me and you're thinking, that's lame, it's not gonna work for whatever reason. That's why I thought perhaps we will demonstrate. You might be thinking, why do you have to bend the thing? Why not just remove the whole post and then glue it down? Well, because then you can't do this. You can glue all the layers down, of course, but you might not want to. You might want to have the layers held with something else. In this case, a brad made from an earring. Here's this one, also pretty cool. And what I would do is, of course, I would secure it also at the back with a little bit of masking tape, these especially. And one last tip for this particular project that I want to give you is For example, having a look at this bow, you see how the bow is oriented towards me? I bend the post towards me, so I'm always bending the post the same way that my earring is oriented. It doesn't matter for like things like this. There's no orientation, no direction, it's just a round thing, so it really doesn't matter. But for things like this, what are these called? These are like a babushka, I think, doll, and then this giraffe and the hearts, they all have an orientation, and I like to bend the post down going the same way. Why? Because then, you know, it just makes more sense. I don't know, it just, to me in my brain, it makes more sense to do it that way, just easier. Oh yes, and I want, just in case if you happen to have a stash of earrings, I did say how I got this a few years ago, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna use this for. I could remove the post, but one of the things that I was attempting, and it's not a terrible idea, is to make them into charms. So like bend like this, and then I have, you know, that's pretty cool idea, right? Just bend them like that, especially the pearl ones. Pretty cool. From an earring, we're making charms. Okay, I think we can now move on to method number 3. I will admit that this one is a little bit of a cheat because it's not essentially a DIY brad, but rather an altered brad. Stay with me because this can save you quite a little bit of moolah. Rather than buying decorative brads, you can get these cheap metal paper fasteners. They look like this. They're very cheap. You can get a whole bunch for a little bit of money. And then you can alter them in dozens of ways. I have a whole list and we're gonna go through it now and we're gonna make some altered brads. All right, idea number 1, we're gonna focus on the flowers. We're gonna add some flowers, go into your stash and pick out things like this, or like this, and this, and this, and this. Here's my flower box. And any of these will do, really. I'm just gonna choose a couple. Maybe we'll do 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, flowers ready. Next, 3 paper fasteners ready to go. Next, you want your glue gun. And this isn't gonna work for all the examples I'm gonna show you. I'm only using the glue gun when I'm using fabric or paper on the paper fastener, okay? So, I mean, you know how this goes, right? You apply your hot glue onto the paper fastener and then your flower. So you can do it like this. Doesn't matter how you do it. You just glue them together. Hold in place. And there's one done, ready to go. Next, hot glue and glue the thing. Perfect. Next, hot glue and glue the thing. And there they are, done in no time. And these I would use for decorating the covers, or even like if I need to, say, attach a book plate onto a cover, onto hardcover. I usually like to use brads to hold it in place. So for example, let's just say for demonstration purposes, this is the book plate I want to use. I'm going to decorate it, whatever, you know, obviously it doesn't work here, but it doesn't matter. And I'm going to glue it on, but then I also want to secure it with a brad. So I would simply poke a hole through this and through the cover and attach the brad through all of the layers. And that way I know, and then obviously this is going to be covered, and that way the book plate is not going anywhere. So of course you can glue your flower, you know, it doesn't have to be on a brad. You can glue your flower onto the cover, but this is kind of functional because it's keeping the layers together. So we're having a functional piece of decoration there. I can add my newly made pieces into my collection over here. I'm running out of space. I sure did make a bunch of brads. Okay, next thing I want to show you that we can also use the glue gun for is pom-poms. So you can see I have quite a few. I have little pom-poms, and then I have larger pom-poms like this. How cool. And like this. This is a little one. And like this. And you know, you might not have all of these examples that I'm showing you in your stash, but you'll probably have something that works for you. All right. If you have a collection of brads like this, for example, I find that there are brads that I never use, like for example this teddy bear. I kind of never use it, so this is a type of thing I would alter. Also, I struggle with like square brads like this. I don't really like them in projects, and especially these kinds of brads, the triangle ones, I always struggle with this. So I used a lot of the brads that I don't actually like in this altering business, including of course the paper fasteners. There's also like brads that I don't like the color of. We'll come back to that, but basically what you're looking for is a flat surface. So you don't want something like this, for example. This one's domed a little bit. This one would still work, but let's say this one, very domed. Look for flat brads that you can alter. All right, here come the pom-poms. I have a whole bag of pom-poms that I never know what to do with, and now I do. I'm just gonna do two. The big one, the big pom-pom, is gonna go on the large paper fastener. We're doing the same thing as we did with the flowers. We're gonna apply the hot glue, go ahead and glue it down and press it down. All right, pom-pom number one, done. That can go into my collection. And now for this little one, perhaps I don't need such a large chunky paper fastener, so I'm gonna go into my stash over here and pick out the brads that I never use, like these little square ones. I never use it. A little bit of hot glue and the pom-pom. And now I have this neat looking pom-pom brad. That's pretty cool. This one can go and hang with its friends. Lovely. All right, next idea. And by the way, that's it for the hot glue gun. Everything else, I am from now on using the E6000 jewelry and bead glue. You might have heard of this glue. It's a very strong adhesive glue. The thing with hot glue gun or hot glue is that if you're gluing metal to metal, it can very easily pop off, very easily. And instead of this, of course, you can use super glue or like glossy accents or something like that. But I'm just going to demonstrate if you don't believe me. This is glued with hot glue. And I know for a fact, if I do this, you can hear that noise. Look at that. Popped right off. Hot glue. So I glued a whole bunch of these with hot glue, and then I found that they're all just popping off. So yeah, no. Hot glue gun, not really your friend, apart from, like I said before, maybe paper and fabric. Okay, it really depends on what you're using. So E6000, or like these little super glues, they're really cheap. You get them from $2 shops, and they glue everything together, including your fingers. So actually, to be honest with you, I use this for my nails when they break. That's why I can I use super glue and tea bags to fix nail breakages. Anyway, beside the point. E6000. Next. Oh yes, you are going to go into your stash of bling that you never know how you're gonna use. I don't know. That's how I feel about this. I never know, like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? Well, this is what we're gonna do with them. I'm gonna start with this one here, and then I'll do one of these, and maybe one of these, and one of these. It's a bling kind of day. Oh, and I'm gonna do one of these because it's absolutely gorgeous. And we're gonna start with this because I want to tell you something. These have you might have something like this in your stash. They have the little kind of sticky backing, but you know, you glue it on your project and then you can just take it off. I do not like that. And then you might think, well, if I just put a little bit of glue on it and then glue it onto my project, it's going to hold it. But the thing is, when you do that, you're not gluing this piece to your project. You are gluing the sticky back sticker thing to your project. This eventually can also come off. So what I want to say about this is always remove this business. Get it all off if you can. If not, you know, get most of it off. Okay. Let's do this. This is going to be done in no time. This is how I could make over 200 brads because it's a really simple process. So I just take a little bit of glue from my E6000. You can see a little blob of glue, and apply it onto my paper fastener. And then, of course, pretty self-explanatory here, we shall pop this into place. And it's done. So the thing with E6000 glue is it takes about 24 hours for this to dry. But when it's dry, it is there for life. Well, I think it is anyway. It's very strong glue. And now this one can go with its friends. You can see its little friends. We'll pop it in there in the little flower garden. Okay, next. Another thing that I realized that I really like the look of is if I use a small little thing like this, put a little bit of glue, not too much because I don't want it seeping through. This is much easier to do when you don't have a camera in your way. And then the little piece can go on top of my paper fastener here and not hide it completely. I really like the look of this. We're just making it pretty. And you can see I did a whole bunch of those because I really like how they look. I think they look so much better like this than like this. We've beautified it. All right, in with the friends it goes. Next, the heart shapes are begging to be married with this rectangular type of a brad. So off we go. Glue and the heart. And look at that, marriage made in heaven. Excellent, little heart brad done. And off it goes. For this last one, I'm using this square brad and glue my flower on top. Isn't that just perfection? Look, I love this one. And I've made quite a lot of those. These are all dry because I made them yesterday, but this one is gonna have to wait before it starts to party. All right, what should we do next? Let's do something slightly different. I'm gonna show you how I made these dome brads. This may or may not be something that you have in your stash, but this is one of those things I have, and I kind of use them, but I don't really know the best way to use them. I don't even know what they are called, if I'm being quite honest. So if you know what they're called, you can let us all know. They have these prongs. I have used them before where I just kind of put something squishy and pretend this is my project. Actually, I'm gonna get my cereal box and then I'll push it through like this. That's how I've used them in the past. And then I flatten these prongs down, and then, you know, it's on my project. But I'm not gonna do that now. So now we're making brads. I don't know, maybe they're called studs or something. Okay, so paper fastener, and I just remembered I actually did do this one with the hot glue gun as well, because you don't really need to glue them together. They will be held together eventually, but I find that if I use hot glue gun, which I can't use now because I'll have to wait for it to, you know, heat up again, it kind of keeps it in place when you're trying to bring these prongs down. But let's see if I can do it without the glue gun. I'm gonna give it a little cap, make it look pretty, and close those prongs. It's just easier when they're glued together, but anyway, it works either way. And here it is, a little brad with a little cap, and it looks so much better than this, doesn't it? I don't know, I think it does. Okay, that one can go hang out with the friends. Next idea is any kind of metal bits that have, this was a brooch, something that has a flat back. This probably wouldn't work, but something maybe like this and like this, broken pieces of jewelry, more broken jewelry like this, as long as it's nice and flat on the back. And then we have like this stuff, we can use wooden stuff. This is a button that, I don't know why it doesn't have a shank at the back. And then this, you get the drift, right? I'm sure you have a bunch of stuff like this in your stash. And then you do the same thing. I'm just gonna do one because I'm sure you get the idea, but I might as well make myself an even bigger stash. Perfect. And there we have it ready to go. Perfect little spot for it right here. And while we are over here, you can see the stars that I've just shown you. These are all dried because I made them last night. And then we have little blink pieces, the flat back blink pieces. Oh, by the way, this was an earring and the post broke when I was like trying to bend it down, so I just glued it on top. And then over here, little flat back pearls that I glued on. That's this stuff that I have nicely organized. You can see these little flat back pearls. I usually glue them directly onto projects when I need to. but no, they look pretty cool in those brads. Now, while I'm over here, I'm going to show you this. I attempted to use these. I think they were like thumbtacks, and they have all been cut short. This has been purchased secondhand, just these bits here. And I'm not sure why they were cut short. I'm not sure how I'm going to use them, because I can't actually glue it onto the paper fastener because, you know, it's in the way. It can't be done. But I also have a whole bunch of these, and I've had these in my stash for, I can't even tell you how many years. And I don't know why. I don't know why. But these used to be brads. I can tell that they were brads because I can see these little prongs. And for whatever reason, the craft that I purchased this from, for some reason, they got rid of the prongs, which kind of sucks. But, and I didn't know kind of how I'm going to use these because they are domed on the inside, so I can't just glue them on because I would need a whole bunch of glue that's going to end up seeping through. Finally, the perfect solution has finally presented itself, and I went ahead and I glued them directly on top of the paper fasteners. I mean, you probably don't have this in your stash. I'm not going to do it now, but you can see how many I've done. All of these. They're all those brads that for some reason were like dismantled. And I'm just going to show you this one. Look how beautiful this one is. Just a piece of bling. What else can we use? Everyone's got a different stash of things, so I just pulled out a few pieces that are kind of within the same category that we can use. And basically these are all little embellishments that already come with these backings, right? And you're supposed to like glue them down. I'm not a big fan of them anyway, and this is another thing I've had in my stash for years and years, probably 5-6 years, and I never use them because I don't know, I just don't use them for some reason. I don't really like this business. I don't like this. I don't know why. So I just want to say with these, all of these, you always want to remove this business. Get it off. So when you eventually glue this onto your paper fastener, the actual thing is glued onto the paper fastener, not this. Like these ones, they're so old that they completely lost their stickiness on top anyway. And then just completely remove. Pretty straightforward. And then of course I'm not gonna be gluing them on because you kind of know already what's going on, but I want to show you the examples. See this and this, that's what they are, and this one. And then for these things you can see them over here, this and this and this and so on. So just for a little bit more inspiration, I'm gonna pop some things on screen to get your creative juices flowing of all the things that you can use. These come from my special designated bling box. They're all kind of like sticky back stickers. Actually, I'll just show you the whole box. This is what years of crafting and looking for things secondhand in op shops and finding things like this. I would never buy this from a shop because this isn't my kind of thing, but somehow I have a whole bunch of these things that, you know, just sit there and that are not used. Like this, I definitely will use that. And anyway, I'll stop talking because we're here. This, I actually bought this, $3, because this is my kind of thing. You know, look into your bling box, see what you have. This is my bling box. Look at this. Beautiful. I'm kind of hoarding these because I love them so much. And then all this kind of stuff. Perfect for brads, right? Oh, another thing I wanted to say, and I haven't actually done it. Look at this. So you can actually, I had it ready and I haven't done it. You can make coin brads. All right, you can actually use, let's just go through this. All right, that's it. I've shown you all the things. There are lots of ideas on my list that I haven't actually done because I only started this project like 2 days ago. And I've been working on other things as well, but I've been wanting to use coins. I even found, these are all coins from different countries, so that would be pretty cool, right? Now, where is that coin? Oh, here it is. This coin is from 1938. Country, it says Kraljevina Yugoslavia. I was tempted to use this coin, but no. Of course, I'm not gonna. I might use like 10-cent euro. Here's another one from Yugoslavia. You know, these, I'm gonna keep them. I have some from Bosnia, Croatia, which is all former Yugoslavia, and Italy, and mostly Croatia and Bosnia. What's this one? Anyway, let's not dwell. Oh, 1969, nice one. Okay, let's not dwell. That's the coins idea. Another idea that I haven't done is googly eyes. I don't know, that would be quite fun to use maybe on a cover, holding the book plate down if you want to scare someone with the googly eyes. Another thing that you can do instead of gluing stuff on, you can simply paint them. So you can use nail polish. I brought these two out because this is exactly what I'm wearing at the moment. I've got this orange. I mean, you can go with any color you want, but what I would do is glitter for sure. Glitter, maybe not this fine glitter, but if you have like real chunky glitter nail polish, I think it'll be perfect. If you just, let's do one, shall we? I'm not gonna go with this. I like it on my nails. I don't like it in my crafts, so that's gonna go to the side. And this glitter, it's very fine, but anyway, I'm not going back upstairs now. And if you just paint it, you get this glittery brad. Beautiful. You can't really see this one. It's tiny little glitters, but instead of nail polish, you can also use glitter glue. And you pop this on, and you have to let it dry for a while, especially if it's quite thick. And then, so when it goes on, I like to use this in various projects, this glitter glue. So I'm just gonna, I haven't really tried it on the brads if I'm being honest, but if you pop a blob of glue, I'm gonna do it all around. All right, I didn't do a very good job, but the beauty with glitter glue is that you leave this for 24 hours, you come back to it tomorrow, and all the gel that you can see, all this sticking up gel, all of it is gone, all of it is gone, and you're left with a flat surface of just glitter. And that's why I love using glitter glue. I'm gonna show you a project that I used it in. This is from a video that I did on using up household paint. If you have leftover household paint, I'm going to pop that video down below. And then you can make yourself canvas journals so you can go and paint. Anyway, you can see on top here all that glitter. That was literally blobs of glue, glitter glue, whatever it's called, that I've just shown you. And I just put blobs in the circles, and then they dry completely flat. And all that's left over is glue, you can see. Completely flat, and that's not gonna go anywhere. Let's see if it's gonna come on my finger. Literally nothing. All right, that's why I like glitter glue, and they are cheap as chips. And if I haven't talked you into it enough, I probably should have shown you this one. This is also from that canvas video, well, what to do with household paint video. And anyway, you can see huge chunks of glitter glue, different colors, and on the back as well. Beautiful. This one is the more expensive kind, and it kind of did dry a little bit, not completely flat, but again, not such a bad idea that either. That was this one, more expensive one, also called glitter glue, but it was definitely more expensive, and it doesn't dry completely flat. All right, moving on. You can also use glitter paint. This is all cheap kids stuff. My voice is shaky because I keep walking around trying to find all this stuff to show you. All right, next thing you can do is, oh no, I have to go and get it. Alcohol inks. These work perfect on metals. Absolute perfection for this project. I didn't actually do it, but you can. And you can also make your own DIY alcohol inks. I also have a video where we're using markers, like dried out markers, to make DIY alcohol inks. Okay, and then you just color it. The paper fastener, I mean. Another thing you can do is you can emboss. You can use heat embossing, but I'm not going to do that now. I just had this idea now. I'm going to try and stamp. This is a stamp, a little flower, and this is archival ink, which means that it's going to dry. It's not water-based, waterproof. So will this work? Oh, I didn't stamp it properly. But let's do another one. Press a bit harder this time. Okay, I need a bit more practice. Do we like it? I don't really like it, if I'm being honest. Maybe, I don't know, make your own design. That's a bit lame, but it's an option. If you have a color that you consider ugly, you can just use a marker and change the color. Okay, at this point, you know what's going on, so we don't need to keep going with that. But if you have some ideas that I haven't mentioned, please share with us in the comment section down below. So I'm just gonna quickly recap. We've got the buttons. And by the way, when you're making the buttons, you might notice some of my buttons are like, it's not moving around, whereas this one, it's kind of wobbling up the top. And this one, let's do this one especially because this one is wobbling kind of quite a bit up the top. First of all, when you're using it in a project, it's gonna go in all the way and then you're gonna open the prongs. So there's not gonna be any wobbling around. So you don't have to worry about that. But if you don't want the wobbly business, then you just have to make sure, I didn't do that on this one, but you have to make sure when you're kind of pinching the little prongs together, you have to really, really, really get as close to the button as you possibly can. And then it's not gonna wobble as much. So try not to have any space up here. Another thing that I haven't, well, I'm gonna show you now. See these, all these tiny little ones were blue. Also this pink one, I don't like that bright pink color. I like the more muted rosy, kind of dusty rose pink. Don't like that. So all this is the small version of these. I think there's studs, maybe that's what they're called. I only have a few left, so I didn't want to use them all up. But they were the perfect size for the small little brads. Okay, I think you have seen all of these. We can move along to the next one. I'm just showing you now for some final ideas if I haven't kind of shown you all the things. Pretty cool. I have a very cool selection of brads now. Isn't that cool? And the little brad garden. I think this is my favorite one. I'm just going to show you the ones that you haven't seen. It's a little heart. This is the kind of pink that I like. And you can see I use that triangular brad for that. I don't think I mentioned using wooden pieces. This is wood. And I just have these, but they're like supposed to be like little pebbles or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, they are brads now. And you've seen all of these. Isn't that just so beautiful? I don't know. I should have done this years and years ago. I just never did. And then I don't think I've shown you these. You probably have this kind of stuff in your stash, little rosettes. Now the next challenge is, how am I going to store these brads? I might put them all in a sorting container. Okay, another thing I haven't shown you are these. You can use like little cutout doily things. I don't know, I don't even know what this is from, but let's see if I have something like what I'm thinking in my head. Like you can use this kind of thing, you know, little doilies and make little doily brads. Oh, well, I love that idea. And then you can go with something else on top. I love that idea. What other treasures are hiding in here? Oh, let's have a look at this. Oh, yes. Okay. Ooh, a nice cool little thing over here. Look at that. That would make a cool brad. Okay. I think I've shown you everything now, and I absolutely made a huge mess all around me, pulling out all the things because I wanted to share every little thing that I thought of with you. And now I would love it if you guys would share all of your little tips and tricks and ideas, if you have some that I haven't mentioned, of making your DIY brads or altering brads. I'm so happy that I finally did this project because I'm always kind of hoarding my brads because I worry that I'm not going to be able to find the pretty brads anymore. I don't know why that is. I never use the best things that I have because I hoard everything. Until recently, I have to say. I have started using up all of the pretty things, and now I have even more pretty things, and I don't have to feel like I have to hoard the pretty things because finally I can make my own brads, and I have over 200 brads. Like I said, I have them now and I can keep making them. So I'm feeling inspired right now, but unfortunately I can't go and craft because I have to clean up the mess. I just want to bring this back on screen because it was just sitting there looking at me. Isn't that pretty? If you're still here, thank you so much for staying till the end. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video. And so will Banjo. Bye. What's going on? What's going on? Everything okay, Banjo?
Yes.